Hello, it's Liana Bolden with Eternally Speaking Now. The name of this message is What a Day. Proverbs 27:1 says, "Do not boast about tomorrow, for you do not know what a day may bring forth." Well, if there's one way I could summarize the past few weeks, it would be this. You never know what a day may bring. Within fewer than 20 days, I have witnessed a strangely large number of unexpected, near-miss occurrences that have hit uncomfortably close to home. Let me give you a little list here. Within that short period of time, a tornado came dangerously near our rental property in Texas, and then another tornado went straight through the town where a best friend lives. Lightning struck so closely to my sister-in-law's home in Tennessee that my niece felt it in her cell phone. Then, lightning struck right outside our church here in Illinois, blowing out some equipment and literally shooting a power surge through my body. My dad had a small stroke and took a hard fall, and then my father-in-law fell. A vehicle came within feet of ramming into our car. A niece's boyfriend had a motorbike accident and a concussion. My parents' car was hit by a motorcycle, and then a close friend with her 5 children were slammed by a delivering truck driver who had fallen asleep at the wheel. After all this, my son broke his finger. And sadly, between the time I began preparing this message to the time I ended it, 2 megachurch pastors stepped down from their positions due to issues of grave sin. One was the pastor of the church we attended in Texas after we did the church plant out there. And the current situation is wreaking havoc for so many of our dear friends. Never in my life have I been personally affected by this many negative things in such a short span of time. And I'm not the only one. After I mentioned this, several sisters in Christ each informed me of their own lists of weird, off-the-wall incidents that have recently occurred to their families as well. Well, what on earth is happening? Simply stated, a lot on earth is happening. My guess is it will continue to intensify. And if we don't feel it yet, we will soon. Why? Because we're in the end days. Scripture explains that as we progress through this part of the biblical timeline, not only will things like wars and famines, pestilence and offenses, betrayal, hatred, and persecution increase, as mentioned in Matthew 24, but also all these things will be coupled with intensified personal afflictions and challenges. 2 Timothy 3 warns us that in the last days, listen, I'm going to quote this. In the last days, quote, "Perilous times will come, for men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, without self-control, brutal, despisers of good, traitors, headstrong, haughty, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God." What a list. Well, you might be wondering, what does this have to do with a tornado, a near-miss accident, or Zach's broken finger? The answer is everything. It has everything to do with those things. As we progress through these end days, we will have more and more opportunities to react to the intensity of difficulties with prideful, ungrateful, unforgiving, and unloving attitudes. Sadly, many professing Christians will be faced with the opportunity to slander God Himself and will be deceived into doing so. Let that not be true of us. 2 Timothy 3:13-15 says, But evil men and impostors will grow worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived. But you must continue in the things which you have learned and have been assured of, knowing from whom you have learned them, and that from childhood you have known the Holy Scriptures, which are able to make you wise for salvation through faith which is in Christ Jesus. While we may wake up every morning and realize you never know what a day may bring, I am provoked to immediately follow that claim with an emphatic, "But God." Yes, tornadoes blew through our town, but God protected us and our property. Yes, accidents have happened to people close to us, but every person involved came out unscathed. Yes, the health of older loved ones is declining, but Jesus continues to show himself strong as their rehabilitator. Yes, Zach's finger broke, but God's timing has been perfect, bringing his window of healing up to the very week before football season begins. And yes, tragedies that cause shock, grief, and weeping are coming to light amongst the Lord's people, but God is purifying his bride and separating the sheep from the goats, just like he said he would. But Liana, you may say, my tragedies haven't ended well. I can't say, but God. Listen, I understand. I truly do. I've had situations that concluded in deep sorrow as well. The truth is, every day throughout the world, there's a loved one who does die, an accident that is fatal, a tornado that does take innocent life. So what do we do with that? Well, what if the "but God" attitude always applies, despite a situation's outcome? Well, please don't hear this with an insensitive tone. If you know me well, you know I naturally weep with those who weep and mourn with those who mourn. I can't help it. I've shed tears yet again this morning, distraught by the brokenness and the suffering of sin in this world. That said, deep inside, I am convinced that there is freedom in embracing the perspective of, but God, no matter what. Whatever the devastation, I am positive that God wants us to focus more on him than on the incident itself. Listen, I've got to repeat that. I'm going to say it again. Whatever the devastation, I am positive God wants us to focus more on him than on the incident itself. We can do that by falling down before him, talking with him. Just talk with him. Listen to him and seek his heart. Lord, what do you want me to learn about you through this situation? Lord, what do you want me to learn about humanity and sin through this? Lord, what do you want me to see about myself as I process this? And Lord, what scriptures do you want to speak to me right now? God knows the past, the present, and the future. He is trustworthy. He's taken care of it all, and nothing has taken him by surprise. Isaiah 46, 9-10 says, this is the Lord speaking right now to you and me. Remember the former things of old, for I am God and there is no other. I am God and there's none like me, declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure. So let me leave you with the challenge. The day after my parents were hit by the motorcyclist, my sister said something profound. She said, what if God, knowing that he would protect my parents and keep them from harm, chose to permit the car accident because he wanted to give that 19-year-old motorcyclist a wake-up call? What if he counted our parents worthy of that calling? What if? Listen, that young man had come out of the middle of nowhere. He was driving way too fast. His free will was leading him down the path of death and destruction. But God, by his sovereignty and through his deep love for both the 19-year-old and my parents, knowing the number of their days, let things fall into place as they did in order to get that boy's attention. And my parents. And mine. And yours. What if there's a reason for everything? Well, after reading the Bible over 10 times now, cover to cover, I wholeheartedly believe there is. And that in a realm of understanding that exceeds human grasp, those reasons are good. One day everything will make sense. One day we'll have answers. One day the puzzle pieces will finally fit together and we will behold the bigger picture, the somehow good picture, the God picture. Until then, look up, fellow believers. Make today count for eternity. Keep your eyes fixed on Jesus while still standing here on earth, and don't lose sight of the biblical timeline in which we dwell. In a little while, God will wipe away every tear from our eyes. There will be no more death, nor sorrow, nor crying. There will be no more pain, for the former things will pass away. That's Revelation 21. May these words console you afresh today in light of your present afflictions, for Jesus is coming for us soon. Oh, what a day that will be.